2017, but actually really completed at the end of June when we finished all the reports, and we're still shuffling a couple of little things because I think as a group of collaborative workers, we kind of went into overkill a bit with this project, with the climate change adaptation strategies for iwi and hapu. While we're only funded 1 day a week, we kind of went into overdrive and we did exceptionally more than 1 day a week, but the kaupapa is too important not to put the energies into. So climate change adaptation strategies has been a successful project because of the energy that so many people were willing to come together in mutual respect with mātauranga Māori, knowledge of place, and to work for the betterment of the solutions that we need to find quickly for climate change. So the first project, so I'll just go quickly to the second project, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's, we've done the climate change adaptation strategies. We're now moving into managing the risks of climate change, and our team is coming together tomorrow for some serious contracting, like we're really getting things sorted in regards to what key things we shall be doing. And that's about the climate change impacts on Māori coastal ecosystems and their economies. Because one thing we do know around the country, and many people on many Māori still have their coastal land holdings, but we are at the most vulnerable. So the work that we do collaboratively with other disciplines led by iwi and hapu is to find those solutions, and as we're calling them, transition action plans. You know, what are the things we need to put into place as part of our second project, which will, it's kicking in now, and that will be, we will be hopefully culminating that by the 31st of January 2019. Before I start the presentation, I just want to draw your attention, Darren, and the support that we get from the Kāhui Māori, for those people who work at NIWA and those people at MB. We're very thankful for the support that they give us. But I also want to acknowledge, actually I've probably now forgot my thought, never mind. In just giving that quick overview of the first two, phase 1 project, phase 2 project, I will go into more detail with the presentation, which I'll be starting for you. So just bear with me while I kind of move backwards and forwards between the platforms that we've created. So look, let's start. If I can go to the presentation, whakatairangitia, reriki uta, reriki tai, proclaim it to the sea, proclaim it to the land, was the catch cry that our team used to try and help our iwi and hapu and our coastal landholders, who are predominantly Māori in the case study region between the Oho River and the Waikawa River. We wanted to proclaim it to everybody that we have serious issues that we need to be dealing with in regards to climate change and the things that are happening on our land now. This presentation is about the lessons learned from our Indigenous and Hapu-led multidisciplinary collaborations, where we combined the complexities of climate change science. We brought in design through landscape architecture, and we also worked with contemporary artists who respond to these environmental issues in particular ways. So I'll take you through that. All right. Nope. Where are we? Oh, just go down, okay. Yeah. Okay. Is that
one more time? Just click one more time.
Yeah. Double click. Oh. So, not coming up. Oh,
I think that's okay.
We should be moving. Hang on.
Resume slideshow.
Resume slideshow. I don't need to do that for every.
No.
I don't mind. This is the joys of Mac users and not PC users.
It's just on a delay.
Oh, it's on a delay. Aroha mai. All right. Aroha mai, people. So, the overview of the phase 1 research is that it's platformed and built upon numerous other projects that we've done. These have been funded by MB, and particularly since 2009-2010. Very quickly, I'll tell you, Manaaki Taha Moana was a research project. And I've just remembered my thought from before from Darren King. Please go to the website. The Deep South website has a lot of information on that. That's what I meant to say before. But we've done projects, Manaakita Moana, Enhancing Coastal Ecosystems for Iwi and Hapu, which was an action research project, kaupapa Māori action research, in order to get 6 active projects happening on the ground about freshwater issues into the marine. So let's get that going. So that's all been going over the last 6 years. And it grew different projects, and particularly one, the Lake Waiorongomai Revitalisation Project, is currently underway with Ngā Hapu o Otaki. Please look online for the reports for Manaaki Tahamoana. Out of Manaaki Tahamoana came Rai ki te Rai, face to face. Bring your brains together, talk with people collaboratively. Rai ki te Rai was a bicultural design studio that we set up with the landscape architecture expertise from Victoria University at the Te Aro campus, working with iwi and hapu, working with master's students to come face to face to bring the visual specialties of design to iwi and hapu so they could see the possible kind of revitalisation project that could happen with Manaaki Tahamoana. So that is a platform of activity that we've used and we keep using for our future projects. The Climate Change Adaptation Strategies Coastal Māori Communities project was the climate change project. And as you can see with my holistic picture here, all of these are connected and we just keep platforming and building on the work that we've done. This presentation is called Whakatairangi Tia Rere ki Uta Rere ki Tai, but it's also the name of the exhibition that we had at a Kuku Dairy Factory in the 11th and 12th of March this year. That exhibition also became, again, platforming and building on what we've done, to an exhibition that was just closed at the Douse on the 31st of July, and it was called In Time of Useful Consciousness, Political Ecology Now, where we showed the findings from the Dairy Shed exhibition, and then we presented it in a gallery setting. So from a disused dairy shed to a gallery setting, we did In Time of Useful Consciousness, Political Ecology Now. So that's all on the website as well. Another little thing, which is just a little aside, is the potential of an international exhibition, which is looking at Indigenous peoples around the world who are doing climate change work and how we can possibly present that and the knowledge and findings therein to help accelerate people's buy-in in these spaces. So we'll just wait for this. Hopefully this works. Seems a little clunky, hey? Yeah. It should be working, hey? Hang on, I'm just going to go here. Slideshow. I don't think I need to do this every time, hey? Anyway, painful. The thing about the kind of exhibitions we do too is that the visual component is really critical to accelerating people's buy-in to the complexities of climate change. If we were just to tell people about the science, most people would run screaming from the room. For iwi and hapu to be engaged in this, we are a visual language, we're a metaphoric language, we're a poetic language. So in using visuals, it's some of the things that we've done over the series of projects to ensure that we have buy-in from our people. The kind of the image I'm trying to show you at the moment is actually an aerial photograph of the Kuku Oho estuary area. It shows clearly between the Oho River towards the Waikawa, which is the case study area of interest. We've got something happening over here on this side. You guys okay with this? Or, yeah. We've got it there.
No, the people on the other side can't see, they can only see the circle. Apologies, everyone. It seems that you guys, put your hands up if you can see a circle on the screen, because we're looking at a photo here of green pastures. But I think that everybody on the online, yeah, you put your hands up. Thank you, Canterbury. You're looking at circles, aren't you? So we've got a little technical, Huhana's got other slides coming up that haven't come up.
Let's pull that right to the big here.
I think maybe we need to reload this.
No, it'll take too long. Yeah, let's just go with this. It will take too long to load. I think if we just make that bigger for this crew.
That's okay.
Yeah, who else can't? No one else can see the images.
No, but we're getting some more tests.
All right. Our apologies for this, people. As I said, the visuals are really critical to what we do.
Yes, yes.
So not seeing them is a little hard to kind of transfer that information to others.
Share screen.
No.
Yay.
Yeah, we on? Oh, excellent. So can everyone now see the images? Can we have a thumbs up? Yay, excellent. All right, let's start again. Okay. So essentially what you're seeing here is the ancestral landscape of Ngāti Tū and associated hapu. This is where I come from and my whānau and hapu come from. So we are essentially between the main water body of the Oho River towards the Waikawa River. And this area is located in Horowhenua, about an hour and 15 minutes north of Wellington. Our processes of engagement, whenever we're engaged in this kind of research, is that we have a kete or a toolkit of our aims and theories that we might be drawing on, but methods. And for us particularly, our methods they're drawn from wānanga and discussion with our iwi and hapu about the best way to frame iwi and hapu-led projects, making sure that our mātauranga Māori is at a respectful level with all other knowledge systems. So that's a really important thing for Ngāti Tū to make sure that our people are well represented by the values and the knowledge that they bring to the projects. So just quickly telling you about this, the general aims, theories and methods of our research projects, is that if you're looking by my dear Auntie Hama, by her ear, we are a project that focuses on interrelationships. So when we come together as different disciplines, we're bringing all our emphases, but we make sure that we see how they interrelate to each other. Our other aim of research is that we focus on interdependencies, because all of our activities, whether we're an archaeoseismologist like Bruce McFadden in the background there, he worked on our Manaaki Moana project, or if you're a climate change science, there are always connections and interdependencies between what we do. So these are Māori systems of understanding that everything is interrelated and everything is interdependent. So we use those as significant aims when we draw other people into our groups. Of course, environmental ethics, ecologies, understanding of ecologies, resilience theory coming through design, we bring those into practice. Place-based education is really important because we're locating ourselves in our ancestral landscape and deriving the projects, the research project and the exhibitions from those spaces. Theories, recognise Mātauranga Māori science, local knowledge of place, and I'll explain this a little bit further. We get into some of the exhibitions we've done, like using methods of whakapapa, which is an essential understanding from a Māori worldview. The layering of information and knowledge, the kind of close relationships between people and how they connect, and how people are connected to whenua, how people are connected to atua, how people are connected to the natural environment. So that whole glue that holds everything together. Oral narratives of place are critical, as I said, and we also use another method of hikoi. We walk and talk on land all the time. So we do, throughout the course of our project, we must have done a good 35 walks, I would say now, 26 within Manaaki Moana, and with the students, but also through our climate change work, it is critical to get on the whenua and actually see and sense and feel what needs to be done. Another method which we've been exercising and practicing is the Wai o Papa exhibitions. Now, they were the climate change exhibitions, and Wai o Papa, in our sense, is the groundwater, is the kind of area that we don't know enough about groundwater, but we know how critically important it is, and also the role that it plays with climate change and the action of tangaroa or sea action as well. So I'm just going to move a little bit faster now. Now, talking quickly about teams, very team-oriented, very team-focused. Tarangitawhia Whakatupu Mātauranga is the team that we set up back in 2010, and I think in about 2014 I did set up a research company called Tarangitawhia Whakatupu Mātauranga, and these are our key people. Moira Potama, Aroha Spinks and myself, the key Manaaki Taha Moana wahine we used to call ourselves, and now we're doing climate change. So some of the prescriptions for Aroha Spinks, PhD student, growing a researcher like Moira, who's really the kai cookie in the kitchen. She's sitting at it from the marae, but working with Kaupapa Māori and cross-cultural collaborative participatory research. Massey University, some of our Massey University team who we're working again with phase 2 for climate change. We've done Manaaki Taha Moana, we've done terrestrial ecosystems together, we've done Manaaki Taha Moana together, we've done phase 1 climate change, and now we're now doing phase 2. So we're a very close whānau of researchers. Again, Professor Murray Patterson, Ecological Economics, Dara Lee, again, they told about that fabulous project manager we have, cross-cultural collaborative research, and she also integrates wellbeing into that. Jane Richardson, she's a fluvial geomorphologist, who's just basically an expert on flooding and where does water go. So she's been fantastic for our case studies as well. We've had a Victoria University team because we've got no qualms about working with other universities. Victoria, Penny and Martin have now gone to Sydney. They're at the University of Technology at Sydney, but they were part of the Spatial Design for Resilience, part of the project. We've also had Professor Martin Manning, who's a senior climate change expert in New Zealand, so he was fantastic for helping us out with the complexities of all that knowledge. I don't want to, you know, like, I've read a lot of climate change stuff, but it's kind of, you know, it's hard. And I can see people nodding here. It's hard getting through. So having someone like Martin who can explain to a tribes farm board or explain to iwi and hapu at wānanga situations and make it more readable and accessible has been critical for getting us forward. And finally, Abdullah Richards, who's also gone to Sydney, all the good people going to Sydney, he's a landscape architect, young landscape architect, and he did all our design graphics. So let's get into some of the things. Climate change adaptation strategies for coastal Māori communities. Okay, again reiterating, participatory action research, kaupapa Māori research, exhibitions as research method. We work with 2 case study farms, as you saw in the big green picture. We work with Tahamata and we work with Bransfields, between Kuku and Waikawa. And we work with a Māori trust that's got coastal landing, a whānau trust that they have coastal land holdings, and that's Moira Potama's whānau trust. We work with them. The aim of that project was all about working with nature, culture, design, contemporary art, bringing them all together to identify the specific risks and what opportunities lay for local areas. And we based it all on future projected climate change related impacts in the regions. So this is where Abdullah's fantastic maps come into play. Please just note that we're talking about the big red space at the top. We were working with another iwi trust, but they decided to pull out, and that was okay, not a problem. So we concentrated on that large blob. 2 tribal farms. The long skinny line is the Hatete Trust. That's what they call a fiddle string cadastral. When they cut all the land up like that, and they gave iwi and hapu these long skinny ones that kind of went from the foothills to the sea. Crazy, but we won't go there. It's another story. That's all treaty research stuff that's going on at the moment. But so that's the space that we were working with, and Abdullah kept us up to date with different maps, whether they be population maps showing peri-urban relationships to rural areas, or water maps, as you can see on the right-hand side, which showed all the water bodies from wetlands, dune lake systems, all fresh waterways to sea. So, Wai o Papa exhibition. So this was the beginning of us corralling a lot of information around climate change and then presenting it to communities. So not only the iwi and hapu, but also having our master's students involved. So our master's students from landscape architecture at Victoria University. So they'd been busy visualising what the potential of this climate change adaptation strategies might look like, but we also needed to pull together complex information that that we could share around geological time and the effects of tides and times. And so this was, I think, 400 to 600,000 years of time in one picture. So how do you do that? So with Penny and Martin working closely with climate change science and the geomorphological knowledge and working with the designer, we created this image. Which was well received by people because they could, really start looking into interrogating some of the notions of what's been happening with up and down, with climate change and sea level rises and various things happening over time. And just that's a closer image for everyone to see, just the kind of levels of complexity that went into that. And then just to create a simple image for people to kind of engage with. I can talk a little bit more about that later. With these exhibitions too, as I've hopefully sharing with you clearly, is that so much of our stuff is grounded in a Mātauranga Māori sense, so that we just anchor everything. For everything that we do on top, it's anchored from a Māori knowledge system. And I acknowledge Dr. Rangita Mātamua, who is very, famous for his metaphorical kōrero into Te Reo Māori, and I acknowledge him, and University of Waikato's here, he's beaming in. I acknowledge his words in regards to how Māori knowledge flows from the cosmos, and it also bubbles up from the springs underneath. So they're beautiful metaphorical understandings where our partners in research can start shifting their kind of thinking a bit to have a bit more of a holistic Māori understanding about the way knowledge can be accepted and disseminated. So we've had a lot of our partners learning so much more about the kind of beauty and the depth and the hohunutanga of Mātauranga Māori. So I acknowledge Dr. Mātamua here. We did that exhibition, the geological time one was in May 2016, and then we did another one in June 2016, and this stayed up for a good 3 months. So the first one was just a month, and then this one stayed up for another 3 months at Victoria University again. And this is the one when we were talking about the Matata, so Māori knowledge systems around time and tides, and how Māori red moons, and not only for their sustenance and for their propitious harvesting or their gardening, but also for their fishing and their navigation. So using that combination of maramataka and star knowledge, we were able to just kind of create a very simple exhibition that honoured that knowledge system of iwi and hapu, and be able to relate that in a way that was readily understood by people. So this one stayed up for quite a long time, and we got a lot of good feedback from this. But the photo at the back, just to explain, it's a very narrow exhibition space, and the photo at the back is really the Kuku Oho estuary, and that photo was taken by Martin Manning, our climate change scientist, who's also a photographer. So that's quite cool. So we didn't know he had artistic visual talent, but we found that out. So, as I said before to you, in the kete of knowledge kind of approach, the things that we've done over years is have loads of wānanga, lots of hui and lots of intensive learning experiences. And this one was held last year at our marae in Tupurehe Marae in Kuku, which was bringing together the design maps that have been done by Abdallah Richards based on the geomorphological fluvial flooding knowledge of Jane Richardson, and based on the latest data. So harvesting all that data to create imagery so that our people could see just some of the pressures that are coming for our coastline. Now, this is not to say this is only going to happen between the Oho and the Waikawa River. It's going to happen right around the country. So maybe more so on the west coast of our islands. It might be getting constantly wetter, and it's going to be drying out more so on the east coast. So these are some of the concerns. So creating images like this is really important so that our people start seeing visually. It's not to say that all this benign blue is just going to float in and it's going to be like this lovely lake system. Nope, it's going to be marshy and wetland-like, and it's just going to be this closer relationship between Waiopapa, the groundwater, and the surface water. These are some of the extremes. There's going to be more flooding. And what we tried to do with these, just very quickly, not to say that this is definitely going to happen because it's very hard to predict climate change changes, but essentially the three images very quickly. The next 20 years, 0.5 metres. The next 50 years is the middle one, and the next 100 years is the third image. So you can see the vulnerabilities that our economic bases are in. This is currently where we dairy farm, and that ability for shareholders to receive dividends is going to be severely curtailed. And it's also something not for our own people to think, oh, well, I'll be dead by then, it doesn't really matter. It matters extensively that we need to be forging futures for our future generations. Some of the visions that we do through wānanga and all the things that people want to see back in their whenua, and this is Te Hakaritu Wetland Restoration Project, which is something that we've been doing since 2002 with our tribal farm, Tahamata, but some of the visions, so get the whānau back to the whenua, get them investing in the whenua in some way. So new kind of economic models we might need to look at. Ensure that our Māori farms are ecologically and economically viable. So there has to be some shifts and changes. You know, whakahokia ngā kaya o te awa, return the traditional resource management where possible, protecting our farms for future generations, and acknowledge and protect our cultural and ancestral and burial areas. So some of the things that came out of the adaptation strategies was the ability to anticipate change. So makes us think about more options. So we know that this is what's happening, extra extreme rainfall and flood events. It's happening more, and it's something that our Tribes Farm Board are very interested in, because I've been telling them for years it's going to get wetter, and now they're just kind of now looking at me going, I think we know what you mean now. But, you know, my teams have been talking, our iwi trusts have been talking with the farm, we need to move. Sea level rise directly affects river estuaries and increases areas covered by floods, as you saw in the images. Storm wave height increases more than sea level and may lead to erosion of sand dunes. And our adaptation requires identification of early warning signs for limits to the sustainability of current practice. So all of these things that we now have much more, a better understanding of, and what we need to plan for future. So this is where the next stage came in, was the kind of promulgating of this information in a way that people could understand better. So what we did is that we held an exhibition, and why not put an exhibition in a dairy shed, this huge dairy shed on our tribe's farm, and show all these fantastic maps and design work done by the students, and show artworks from artists from Massey University who were keen to be involved, and bring all that refinement to a very clean dairy shed, I would have to say. In the end, it was a very dirty dairy shed to start off with, but we spent a month cleaning it out, and it became a really fantastic kind of exhibition space. So refined designs of the master's students were presented. We did photographs by Anne Shelton, who's a leading contemporary artist from Massey University. We had drawings by the landscape architect Martin Bryant. We had photographs by a master's student, Kevin Cartwright, and we had a little mini installation from me. I'll show you just some of these images. The dairy shed itself, so this was before we started cleaning up. There were kind of three areas. I can just show, there's two sheds shown here at the moment. So you've got the top one shows the back of what we called the Hikoi shed. That was the walking, talking hui shed. So that was the journey of the research shed. The little red tin one there was the oral narratives, or the Porero Tuku Iho shed. And I think I have an image. Yes, see down below by the truck, that was the whakapapa shed. So that was the shed that was grounded by the whakapapa knowledge. And that was the oldest shed. So we gave that the mantle of, you know, being able to hold whakapapa knowledge and cosmological knowledge. The top photo again showing you the Hikoi shed, which was where the students held their work. And then the Porero Tuku Iho was all about the thresholds that we were seeing on the farm and how we needed to show that in the Porero Tuku Iho shed. You can just see this locale of the Cuckoo stream running through this area as well. And this is a very, very polluted waterway, unfortunately. This was a massive food source for the pā that were located around this area. If you look at the bottom image too, there's macrocarpa trees right in the lower left there in the middle, if you can see those, that mound there is actually a burial mound. So we're in cultural ancestral landscape with a polluted water system running through it. So these are the things I've been saying, and our kaumātua have been saying to our tribe fund board, we shouldn't have polluted waterways running through our special ground. So these have been some of the things that we've been addressing amongst our own. So the nature of having exhibitions in dairy sheds is that it does attract a lot of interest. So we had principal investigators come from the Deep South, which was fantastic. We had key leaders from the Deep South, MB representation there as well, which was fantastic. And we had gallery people there, we had artists, we had a whole range of people. It was a filthy weekend. It was the weekend where it was torrential rain. And thankfully, the rain stopped between 2 and 5 o'clock when we had the exhibition on the ground. So thanks, universe. Thank you, ancestors. They just held off the rain for us, but it was it was pregnant with rain the whole day. Anyway, it was great. It was great. So setting up whakapapa shed, I'll move quickly. Using and addressing and putting our mātauranga Māori up front. There was a lot of text in this exhibition, but people sat and read it. Now, that's my partner, Richard, reading it while we were setting up. Penny and their technician at Vic helping set up the whakapapa shed with the knowledge and the vision statements and the maramataka information that you saw in the previous exhibitions. So it was like a translocation of those two window shows into the sheds. Some of the work, the artist work by Kevin Cartwright hanging just behind those ladders there. He did some big photographs of storm surge water that he took down at Kuku. They were backing the large images of the maps. That was our hikoi area, the area that we walked and talked on all the time. Nothing works better for iwi and hapu is to put their whenua on a big image and everyone sit around it and pore over it. The knowledge, the stories, the kōrero that comes forward is critically good. And we've been using it for years and it's a fantastic method. So you can see that, this is what 0 metres looks like and this is what 3 metres looks like. So that's like the now and the 100 years. So this was a very a stark reminder to people as to why we're doing this research. The student work that was in the section where the cows used to be milked, the journey of the research and their projects were made very real by the master's students engaging with professionals over the summer. They did like a summer internship with 2 design companies in Wellington, Isthmus Group and South Pacific Studios, and they worked with the students to make 2 winning student projects real. So these weren't big fanciful ideas of algae farming out at the sea or, which some of the students had been talking about, but make some real projects. This one was all about water and the protection of water and what you would need to do to buffer and protect the coast and ideas towards things that are actually real and achievable. The whole, the vision of iwi and hapu to come back to the whenua, to live in quality housing and papakāinga on whenua, invest into those, help the farm with some cash flow. We've got to think of some other ways of doing our economies. And the students came up with some beautifully architecturally designed buildings that actually adjust to wet foot environments. So that it was, and I saw someone go, wow. They were like, I want to live in a house like that. So, and they were actually affordable houses as well. They were beautifully designed and affordable, but they adapted to the changes coming. So these were some of the students being able to be present for some of the visitors to tell them more about the projects. The Kōrero Tuku Iho was all about thresholds. This was the what if. What if you see this happening in the farm at the moment? What if you see all this ponding going on and it's just not going away? What do you do? So the little light boxes at the back were the solutions to that ponding issue. If we're getting more flooding, you can see the kind of cow, might be a bull, heifer, whatever, anyway. If you see this kind of flooding kind of thing going on and it's happening more and more, what do we do? The light box at the back gave the kind of adaptation strategy that might help that situation. And so that's what that shed looked like. It was quite beautiful, simple, but really effective. And as always happens when we have big Māori projects, there's always some kind of phenomenon happens. And this in particular is the kura haupō, the particular light phenomenon that was happening. And this stayed with us for about a good 10-15 minutes, right at the end, and okay, before it rained again. and everyone stopped and just looked at this phenomenon. And I mean, these are, this kind of rainbow from the ground up is considered kind of highly auspicious. So we felt like, yay, that was a good exhibition and it's not rained on us, and thank you ancestors. And so that was like a visual mihi to us. We all felt it, and some of our kaumātua were really quite excited. I think that might be the end of that. Not moving, eh? Right. Yep, cool. All right, so I'll leave that. I could leave that. Okay. Oh, great. This would be great. Can we show this? Yeah. How am I going for time?
Maybe another 5 minutes.
Another 5 minutes, great. What I didn't show you was, and I want you to look it up yourself, you can do your own homework, is look up the Deep South climate change. There are papers coming out around the exhibition that was held at the Dowse Art Museum. There's lots of fantastic images that the Dowse took. I will be compiling those and make those available for the Deep South website so people can go through and scroll through the images themselves, rather than me repeat what we did with the second phase of the exhibition. So please do that. And I want to just leave you, before we get into questions and talking and that kind of thing, is that we are moving towards risk assessment transition action plans. So I'm showing you a video or a couple-wide camera flight. We tended to call our drone cameras couple-wide because drone at the time was a particularly nasty kind of form of warfare. You know, so we decided to call ours couple-wide. So our couple-wide camera took photos and also took videos while we were doing the Manakitaha Moana project. So I'm showing you a video of a week after a flood in July 2015. Okay, so we're talking thresholds, and this kind of information, visual and targeted, is to help our people see that we have the thresholds of climate change with us now, and that it's not like coming, it's with us now. So this is a good indication of that. So hopefully this works. Oh, please work. Nope. Let's try it here. No, it's not working. That one. DVD? No. Right. PC laptop. All right. Damn it. Looks like it's meant to work, but what's it say? Someone might be able to give a hand? No. My apologies. I'm not sure we can show the video. This is the differences between working between a Mac and a PC. Unfortunately. It looks like it should work, but it doesn't look like it wants to, hey? Never mind. Look, shall we leave it at that? But I'm willing to take, guys, I've done all the talking. I've been talking to this lovely group here, but I know there's another bigger group out there. Perhaps people might like to ask me some questions and we can just get into a bit of a cross-island dialogue.
Okay, so if you can stop sharing the screen. We have one question here that's typed in because Catherine is in Northland and doesn't have great internet. And her question, why is my computer's failed, is encouraging investment in the whenua and back home to have whānau come home and iwi invest in projects and such. If we have the wrong data informing our planning going forward, one might argue that it's irresponsible to encourage all that if sea inundation and other climate crises effects, both progressive and abrupt, will mean the worst case scenario. Some communities won't be able to adapt, they'll need to relocate entirely. So the question is, where's the large-scale planning to mitigate all the investment risks for our whānau iwi business?
Yeah, cool. Great question. Fantastic question. I can't speak for Taitokoro per se, being it's a narrow isthmus, and that is a really, really important question. what we were doing in regards to that kind of iwi and hapu investment, so our peeps who are out doing big jobs or whatever, investing back in home whenua, is actually on the high areas, like assessing where we would, you know, I know the students gave an idea of, you know, adapting to water, but we have addressed in our plans where best to locate your retreat. So we did, our light boxes talked about protecting, like buffering. Let's buffer our coastline now, and that's plant out all our dune systems. Let's look at alternatives economies, so all our high dunes currently, which are covered in lupin, and maybe get, you know, grazed in summer for, or winter for cows and that, let's retire them into something else because they're way above sea level. They're not going to be inundated per se. But there's another section of our farm which is up on another ridgeline. So that was the area that we were talking about, where if people wanted to invest in their farms, coming back to invest on the high ground. So we're not being ruthless or silly in our thinking in regards to how it might be for future generations. But we're talking about whenua that's not going to be looking so much like whenua anymore. It's going to be much more wetlands. And the other thing, for the sake of Taitokoro question, is that we've been working very closely with many people, expertise around the harakeke industry that likes wet feet. So let's put in some wet foot crops, and particularly harakeke as a sustainable fabric. So, but me being at Massey now with a whole bunch of fashion designers and textile experts, I'm like, right now, maybe we can start doing the evil plan about the harakeke industry. And I say evil in a very light, glib way. But I appreciate that question because I think it's a really critical one that, you know, we're not planning for making mistakes. We're planning for, you know, making change, positive change.
We have another question typed in from the University of Canterbury. How did you deal with people's emotional responses to flooding and other attacks on their well-being, especially those people who are living on the coast? So I suppose when people learn about those impacts.
We're having a lot more flooding impacts happening inland now. So we have a lot of people around our marae that are flooding, and that they are like group discussions with all key entities, whether it be Transit New Zealand, Horizons Regional Council. So it's not just a coastal issue, it's actually a flooding issue inland as well. Because we're talking a lowland forest area that was meant to flood. So we are having some issues for some of our whānau inland, up by the marae, by the state highway. And the issues around that are probably because of changes in, like, people leasing their land to market gardeners, and they build up the land. They put loads and loads and loads of truckloads of soil on top as well. So it raises things, so things flood differently. So a lot of people's homes have been flooding. It's not good. And it's how do you cope with that emotion? Listening to someone like my cousin last week talking about rats the size of cats is not a good look. And even the council was a bit like, you know, heads went back and, you know, so that's the emotional side of it. But where we are at Cuckoo at the beach, it's not a developed coastline, it's more the infrastructure for the farm. And some of the farming houses are not flooding per se because they're all up on dune ridgelines. But I accept the fact that, yeah, we have, how do we cope with that emotion? It's just we're talking through. We talk through. Because it's a Māori-led project, you have to spend a lot of time talking to people. So that's just the way it is. Talk through and try and find solutions. But the inland flooding in Cuckoo at the moment is a big issue because it's flooding the village of where people are around, and it never flooded before. But that's the climate change threshold. So.
We have a question from the University of Otago, which I will unmute them.
Kia ora, Anne-Marie Jackson, Otago. That was great, thank you. What a cool project. Are you looking at doing travelling exhibitions?
Yeah, funny you should say that. Yeah, yes. I'm speaking to Sydney, the people from Sydney, because they were kind of like the peeps I worked with to do the exhibition stuff, because I used to be the senior curator Māori at Te Papa, so I can't quite get exhibitions out of my system, because I think they're a really good way of disseminating complex information. But we are looking at a travelling exhibition, but with Indigenous peoples in Australia and New Zealand. So, because it's a global issue, you know, who else is doing things? But I'd be very willing to talk. Our team did talk about a national exhibition where we go around, or we gather people in who are doing projects around the country, and we exemplify their work through the exhibition method to kind of put the kōrero out there. You want to help? You want to help?
Yeah, definitely. That'll be awesome.
All right, good. All right, well, we'll line that up. So did you hear anything else? We've actually, the really cool thing that happened with this phase 2 project is that MB actually gave us some extra money, which we didn't ask for, which was cool. And I say that because it's the engagement with Māori that's really critical, and it takes time and effort, and it costs. So we'd be happy. So let's swap. I'm looking at you on a screen here. It's like I'm looking at you. Let's swap some contacts and see what we can do.
Got a question from Victoria University, but it's given me a second to turn those mics are now on. So, I'm gonna ask you. Oh, I was just pressing my hand. Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, we have a different question, which is, are these conversations happening between Hapu, so Hapu,
Yes, to a degree. Yes, and a good question, because I'm not sure whether I did put this out to the webinar to Wanangō-Rokoa, to people who work there saying, hey, tune in. Yes and no, but yes, I know that sounds weird. If I could just say, one of the researchers, Aroha Spinks, is based in Otaki, so she's doing a lot of talking on the ground with people in Otaki. We are, whenever you do this research, it's like you've got 1 day a week to do this research, and you don't do 1 day a week, you do weekends and nights and all that kind of thing. But we did make it a inclusive hapu opportunity, and it just depends whether people want to sustain and keep that up. So with our whānau from south of the Otaki River, they didn't want to be involved. So it's okay. So we engaged in hapu to hapu kōrero, and if people want to take it up, great. I think more and more people are taking it up, and I think they will take it up more so now. So, but it's a really good question, yeah, because, you know, you've got people who've got full-time jobs, Māori lives, marae-based lives, and if anyone's worked in a Māori dynamic, it's incredibly intensely busy dynamic. Yeah, so, but yeah, I appreciate that question. It's important.
We have another question, difficult question. What are your methods when dealing with urupa that have suffered flooding or coastal erosion?
Thankfully, at the moment, we haven't had that experience, but I am aware of others around the country who have that experience. Our urupa, this is the foresight of our ancestors, are all up there in the high dunes, which is good. So we haven't had the experience yet. But what we do, what we have been doing over the years is very much, it's the mapping and the knowing and the kōrero around those sacred spaces, our wāhi tapu, protecting them. I was at a planting, not last Saturday, the Sunday before, for an urupa that in 1994 had been planted in pine trees, and a lot of people were quite upset, and there was lots of kind of things happening to people in a spiritual way in regards to pine trees being on an urupa, but they weren't removed, even though we asked, you know, a team of people asked, a whānau group asked. They were harvested, but they've now, the whole area has now been replanted in native, so that's 23 years later. But that, I'm not going to say. In that respect, we have strong respect for wāhi tapu, and then sometimes some of us don't have strong respect for wāhi tapu. So that's, and I also want to make a statement too, is that in all this work we've been doing with active kaitiaki, there are some active kaitiaki and there are non-active kaitiaki. So we like to work with the active ones. So it's just real, I'm just being honest.
There's one more question. Sorry, we already have people sending in, but they're all tight. And maybe we'll make this our last question because it's quite a big one and we have 3 minutes left. Do you have any insights into why there's a lag for Māori recognising the urgency of the climate crisis? For example, Our National iwi Chairs Forum iwi Technicians Climate Change Group is struggling to get technicians on our team. Hard to understand why iwi aren't clamoring to find experts to prioritise this mahi among our iwi. Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? Yeah, I have lots of thoughts on that. We're quite conservative. We can be. And I say this with absolute love and respect to the farm boards that I'm on. I'm on a farm board, and so maybe if I say it, if I couch it in these terms, is that we've bought into models of economies which I don't think are doing us any good. So I'm talking about the industrial dairy model. I don't think we should keep it going. So I think we should be imbuing our economic bases with strong, we've got the knowledge, we've got the kaupapa, we've got the value systems, and I think we should be imbuing our economic bases with those value systems so that we have a better form of economy making for our people than relying on the industrial dairy model. Because I've been on a tribes farm board for, it'll be 9 years this year, and I've learned a lot about dairying, and but I've also learned, because I've been active in the water protection and all that kind of thing, is that we are putting too much emphasis or relying on models that aren't doing, I don't think, our hapu and iwi any good. And I can say that, and people can shout me down if they want, but I think we can be inherently conservative or not want to speak up and say, hey. So on our tribes farm board, if I can just kind of clarify this, is there's 3 of us who are very green and kaitiaki orientated, and 4 of us who, maybe a couple of fence sitters and others who are just right behind the Pākehā industrial dairy model.
Okay, well, I'm going to unmute Darren.
I'm big enough now to say these things because I'm not young anymore. Yeah, I can say these things now. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have got away with it, but yeah.
Darren, do we have you with us?
Yes.
Yes, I'm just starting your video. Are you able to just finish us off for today, Darren?
Yeah, look, well, Huhana, thank you on behalf of everybody, and also, of course, for everyone for making the time today. Huhana, there are massive learnings from the project that you and your team, whānau, have been involved in for all of the Vision Mātauranga projects, but I'd also suggest for the wider Deep South Challenge, and researchers really more broadly beyond the challenge who are grappling with complex, interdependent issues. I also think the work that you've led is a really good example of interdisciplinarity in action. And I'd also like to highlight, like I did at the beginning, immense value that comes from bringing in the disciplines of art and design for facilitating those complex discussions, which, as I said, hasn't been done before in the climate and Māori society space, at least not my knowledge. So look, I encourage everyone to check out those VM web pages, and as reports and work becomes available, to go deeper with the work that Huhana has reported on today. So Huhana, mea tu kia koe, kia pō wai te wairua, o tō koutou mahi, kia tātou katoa, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Kia ora rā.
Tēnā koe, Darren. Nā mihi kia katoa.
Yeah.